Pokémon Scarlet with only water-type Pokémon. Now this was my first time through the game, which means I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and also no idea what typings new Pokemon were if they weren't teased beforehand. Now I'll be honest, this challenge started as a Nuzlocke, but I quickly realized that my playstyle of open world games doesn't really work with Nuzlockes. Combined with the second fight with Nemona, I gave up on it. To make up for this disappointment, I will be doing a slightly modified water-only Nuzlocke. More about that at the end of the video. Anyway, the rules for this run, as I said, because it started out as a Nuzlocke, I followed the encounter rule according to a Nuzlocke, meaning that I can only encounter one Pokemon per route, or in this game, area. This can be easily checked by going to your Pokemon stats and checking the caught at / encountered at part. The other rule that for encounters that people like to use, and I feel like it's a really cool rule with a lot of uses and strategies associated with it, is the Dupes Clause. The Dupes Clause is a rule that means that if I encounter a Pokemon in a new area that I already caught as my encounter in a different area, I may skip that encounter until I find a new one. So with these rules in mind, my water type only playthrough of Pokémon Scarlet starts now. One beautiful cutscene later, and we wake up on our first day of school only to immediately get distracted by everything in the room. After breaking free of our ADHD for a moment to realize our objective is down the stairs, our mom tells us that we have yet to receive something important that we need for our first day. One convenient interruption later, and we meet Mr. Clavel, the director of Naranja Academy, the school we've been enrolled for. He tells us he's here as an apology for the late delivery of the last enrollment documents. Hands them to my mom with this beady animation. My mom insists that the director joins her for tea, while she rushes me to grab my bag and hat like many games before. Another lapse of concentration later, as well as putting the deck speed on fast and realizing that Game Freak for some reason removed the ability to put the game mode to set, we make it back down the stairs to see my mom, who had no ulterior motive for being super nice to Director Clavel, only for him to tell us that he has another thing to give us. He takes us outside and releases the 3 starters, but can't stay to watch us decide on which one we want, so he tells us to come to the house down the road to tell him the one we want once we've made a decision. At this point, I was really missing the ability to run. Also, our mom gave us a new phone, but I should learn to be patient, because only a couple of steps later, I started sprinting to the house to tell the director the starter I knew I wanted before I even turned the game on. A cute cutscene later, and we meet Nemona, whose character trait is that she likes to fight, and that's really about it. She's really fun throughout the game though, so it's fine. More talking and we get to choose our starter, Quaxley, and I named him Elvis. Naturally, Nemona wants to battle immediately, so we join her on the beach to battle her fire type with my water type. This doesn't seem favorable to her. Clean defeat later, and Nemona nearly brought out her level way too high Pokemon for me. Director Clavel reminded her that I'm only level 6, and she apologizes for her attempted murder. Apology accepted, I guess? She then gives us a Pokedex, and Director Clavel lets slip that he's very old to just some kids who don't have a chance of caring about anything that he's saying.
Bro, how old are you?
We almost start our journey to school, but get stopped by my mom, who wants to make sure that we're well fed by giving us a sandwich that we'll definitely eat ourselves. An hour into the game, and we have made it to the catching tutorial, where we catch a Lechonk we'll never use because he's not a water type, and proceed to talk to Nemona again, who gives us some advice to stay away from cliffs that we immediately ignore. We look over the edge, which is just a super smart decision, and see a large Pokemon being bullied by a bunch of small Pokemon. And another funny coincidence, I guess less funny and more terrifying, because the cliff has now broken from underneath us. Rotom's an incredibly useful Pokemon who saves us from death, and now we're face to face with a Pokemon whose mouth is as large enough to eat my head. Luckily, we don't have to worry about that because it's injured and on the floor, and we're kind enough to approach and heal it with not potions, fool. Clearly it needs the sandwich we got from our mom. Was that not obvious? So we fed the puppy, and then he wandered off to a nearby cave, and we followed suit to see him transform to a bipedal, large change, I know, but his attack form or apex build, I guess, which leads us into the cave where Nimona is at the top. Not confused about the big boy in front of me, but more impressed, I guess. So we follow the big boy through the cave to almost the end, but when the Houndours decide they want revenge, so they bring out their big boss Houndoom to beat us up, but I think they don't know the type chart because fire is weak to, oh, it's level 40. Arceus help me. Or Koraidon, that works too. The Houndour were not a fan of Koraidon yelling at their boss, so they decided to gang up on the big boy, who didn't exactly know what to do about this, but luckily Nimona, who's been yelling at us the whole time, calls out to Koraidon to give him directions, and everyone is saved. Mostly saved, I guess. So it turns out that Koraidon's battle form was essentially an intimidation tactic because he's quite lacking in power right now. This is a topic that will come up later, don't worry. We make our way to the lighthouse to see Arven, who immediately yells at my new puppy, which just seems uncalled for, and then proceeds to tell me to go away. So I murdered his Scarlet. He's the son of the professor, which is another plot device that will come back a lot. Oh yeah, he also gave us Koraidon's Pokeball, so now he belongs to us and is now an extra Pokemon on our team that we cannot use. So that's neat. He then runs away to school, and I have a realization.
Am I just really small, or is Nimona incredibly tall?
Some foreshadowing and confusion with the map later, and we're forced to get a view that would look better if it was rendered properly. Then I tried to glitch back into the cave that we came from unsuccessfully, only to realize that a lot later that all I had to do was progress a little bit further into the game, and it's been easy. Finally, we're left alone to explore the area before Lost Plateaus, and we have our first battle against a random trainer, to whose bug-type Pokemon we just spam pound. Skill. I then got lost trying to find random items and discovering places, and I came upon a beach where I saw my first target water type, Wiglet. But I got confused on how to get into combat with them and got snuck up on by an Aracuda. Caught it and named it Arrow and beat up the Wiglet out of vengeance. We proceeded to get taught how to use Poke Centers as well as the new TM machine. No, I did not make that up. As well as LP or League Points, which is a new type of currency alternative to Poké Dollars that works the same, also need it to make the TMs from the TM machine as well, I guess. As well as materials from Pokemon. We discovered eating before proceeding to explore a lot of the area, grabbing items before coming up to the school gate nearly 2.5 hours into the game. Needless to say, this is not a speedrun. We are stopped by Nimona, who's craving a fight, as she does. And this is where I decided that this isn't a Nuzlocke, because I didn't expect Nimona to come at me with an electric terrestrialized Pawmi who thunder shocked my two mono water types. Luckily, she just makes fun of you for losing, which hurt my pride, but at least we get to continue the game. We enter Mesagoza, the town surrounding the academy we're going to. Nimona introduces you to Delibird Presents, one of the best shops ever to exist for some reason I didn't abuse until much later. Delibird Presents sells battle items, and depending on which city the Delibird Presents you're shopping at is in depends on what stock of battle items the shop holds. For example, the Delibird Presents in Cascarafa sells the Mirror Herb, and this is the only way to obtain it. And the Delibird Presents in Levincia sells the Covert Cloak along with other things like the Shell Belt, because Levincia has 1,000 exclusive items in their stores. Nimona also informs you she's going to put a good word with the higher ups in order to try and convince them to let you use the Terastal phenomenon to terastalize your Pokemon, so she leaves you to explore the town on your own. Fast forward a bit, and now we're in front of the murder stairs, where a girl with a cute Eevee backpack is being pestered by two people with star-covered bike helmets. They ask her to join Team Star, and she doesn't respond, so they ask again. She says no, and then they ask a bit more forcefully this time, which is when I step in. Feign ignorance, piss them off, school in a fight, save the day, and get given the ability to rascalize, which I then use to bully the bullies, because Nimona told me to. So if anyone asks, it was her fault. We then climbed the worst staircase in the world to go to school. Enter the building to meet Nimona, who tells about classes before the director Clavel joins us in the lobby and asks us how we found the trip here. We show enthusiasm before Nimona places blame on me for bullying the Star Fools. How dare she beat me to the punch? And then we just go to class. Our homeroom teacher is Jacques, who begins class by hyping me up and then standing me in front of the class and forcing me to answer questions. My most awkward and nerve-wracking circumstance I could be in. Also, I found this funny.
That kid has 5 frames.
This game is really big.
That kid.
Also, you heard that voice in the background. My brother was in the room playing alongside me for the beginning of the game. He goes away later. And that's what we'll be doing, basically exclusively voiceover, because I'm very, very quiet when there's nobody else in the room with me. Like a very, very quiet. Anyway, after class, we talk to Nimona, who introduces a character known as La Primera, who is apparently very strong, as we'll figure out later, is the champion we need to defeat to be classified as champion ourselves. Nimona updates our map with all the gym locations, and then we go to the cafeteria to talk to Arvin. Remember him? Well, I do, so don't worry. How could I forget the person who gave me my doggo? Arvin asks us to assist him with finding ingredients for sandwiches. Not typical ingredients, mind you, but ingredients only known of in legend, told in a book that it's mysteriously called the Scarlet Book, and found in the lab of his mother. He calls the ingredients Herba Mystica, and they're used for shiny making Pokemon and people healthy. Yeah, they're real superfood, apparently. Anyway, we accept his offer, but he tells us not to make the decision right now. Puts the location of the Titans said to guard the Herba Mystica, and gives us a bag of Stardust for our time, and then we try to leave, but get stopped by someone who claims to have hacked our phone. They call themselves Cassiopeia and tells us that they need help taking down Team Star, in a plan they call Operation Starfall. A pretty epic name for a pretty silly concept. Anyway, they tell us to think about joining, even though I was going to say yes anyway, and then hang up in a suspicious timing of Director Clavel walking in on us and scolding us for talking loud, and then a not suspicious at all mumble about Team Star into us being called up to the office. Director Clavel thanks us for coming, asks us how we've been enjoying the academy so far, and then tells us that a friend of his has something serious to discuss with us. Turns on the TV and we see the professor, Sada, who tells us that they conduct research into the great crater of Paldea at a site known as Area Zero. They then list off my student ID number before asking if we're the one with Crydon, which is a little odd. But then they ask for our assistance. To these words, Crydon just pops out of his ball, which Sada tells us that Crydon used to belong to them, and if you remember from earlier, Arvin is their son. Which, I guess I see it, but if you're playing Violet, I guess it's a lot harder to see. We then officially get confirmation that we now own our puppy, so that's good. But also have been told that he's in a weakened state currently, and it will take time for him to regain the abilities he once had. One of these abilities being the one to fight. Not that I could use him or any other legendary in this game, because none are water type, which was completely accidental, but I wouldn't have used them anyway, so Sada then gives us her contact info and tells us that she'll check in every once in a while to keep tabs on our progress, then leaves. Clavel, the foreshadowing king, makes a passing mention about Crydon coming from Area Zero, Then this is the classic, don't tell me you actually did it, with no context. Fade to black, and we've moved on to the director telling us that the Academy will assist us in the momentous task of taking care of this Pokemon. I doubt that for some reason, so we try to leave but get interrupted by Nimona, who wants to bring us to our dorm. So we get dragged off to the dorms to get some sleep. After properly investigating the premises, of course, we finally make it to the time skip, which looks pretty cool, minus the flashing orange dawn at dusk. We then get up in order to go to the schoolyard, which of course Nimona comes to drag us to watch the trailer cutscene. After Clavel explains our independent study project, we leave the school in order to get stopped immediately, of course, to get told that entering the Great Crater of Paldea is against the rules. Also, Nimona comes to tell us to hurry things up, so after the next scene, we'll be speeding things up. So Nimona explains that the treasure hunting motif of the independent study is about finding something you truly treasure. For some, that's success in the Pokemon League. For others, it's experiences you have out exploring the Paldea region. She makes a passing mention about classes which teach you mechanics of the game and everything you need to have a good understanding of the game, as well as giving you cool rewards for passing classes and interacting with teachers such as a Galarian mouth from the language teachers, and something very important from the history teacher. Anyway, now Arvin and Nimona are fighting over who's going to get my assistance, but it's okay because the hacker who took over my phone told them off while reminding me that they also asked for my assistance. And those are the three paths of the game: the League, the Titans, and Starfall Street. And this marks the end of the intro. Finally. As I said at the beginning of the video, I will be doing a water-only Nuzlocke at Pokémon Scarlet as an apology for the failure I had at the start of this run. Seeing as a lot of people, including myself, believe that Palafin is stupid overpowered, I will not be using him in the Nuzlocke. As per Nuzlocke rules, I will not be able to catch more than one Pokemon per area, and as Nuzlockers have decided for this game, I will be rolling for a random Pokemon that I can catch in an area and catching whichever I roll into. Finizen will be removed from the pool naturally because I cannot use Palafin. Water Terra type placed encounters are ignored for this draw as they are not normally water type, or if they are, they naturally spawn elsewhere and can be drawn for in that area. Lastly, Dupe's Clause or Duplicate's Clause still applies, so if I have caught every water type in an area, or they just don't exist in an area, which is much rarer than the former, it doesn't matter which, because I don't get an encounter either way. Now those are encounter rules. Now on to gameplay, because as Nuzlockers have brought up, there's multiple routes in this game and thus multiple ways of deciding what classifies as a final battle for a Nuzlocke. And as we haven't gotten to the end of this series, we just started, so I'll be brief and just say that we will be ending either if we lose a fight or if we win the very final fight at the end of the last path you get after completing all three, which does mean that I won't be placing a level cap so much as the level cap will be to try and be on par with the next gym leader, because the levels go very all over the place depending on the path, so I'll be trying to keep on par with the next gym leader that I need to fight to try and keep things balanced, as well as not having to micromanage XP on my Pokemon at all times. I don't really find that fun, and don't exactly pay attention to the XP I'm getting too much, as this playthrough will show you. Lastly, I think we'll see that when I fleshed out everything a bit more, I think I'll be banning items in battle. X items will be banned, of course. That's just a given, as they allow for any Pokemon in this game to win almost every fight solo, as they're super broken. Anyway, for a recap, encounter rules will be: I may only catch one Pokemon per route, it must be decided randomly, and I must nickname it. The Pokemon must be naturally water type, and once I've caught a Pokemon of the species, I may not catch another of the same species. If I've caught all species of water type Pokemon in an area where the area does not have any for me to capture, then I do not get an encounter for that area. Tough luck. Palafin and Finizen are banned. Gameplay rules will be: if a Pokemon faints, it dies. Try not to overlevel the next gym leader, X items are banned, and items in battle might also be banned. This is still undecided. And that's it. I hope you'll be excited to see where the run comes out after I fully flesh out the rules and finish putting up the rest of the episodes for this series. See you in the next episode. Bye bye.